impacting the global markets, Nigeria, and even the African space. Today, we'll be looking at COVID-19 and the Nigerian financial markets. With me to discuss this as a lead discussant is Mr. Bayo Olugbemi, the Managing Director and CEO of First Registrars. And still here in the studio with me is Mr. Bolson Omofaye, CEO of Frontier Africa Reports.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Olugbemi. It's good to have you on the show, sir.
Nice to have you, Mr. Bayo Olugbemi.
Thank you very much, Bolson and Dr. Abbasi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us the... I know you are very busy, a busy schedule this period, but thank you for giving us part of the time.
My pleasure.
Yeah. And Mr. Bolson, I know this is part of your forte, so let's begin the conversation. Mr. Bayo, we know that you're a key leader in the registrar business in the country. We just want to get an insight into how this pandemic has impacted the business so far. What are the challenges and even the opportunities at this time?
Thank you very much. We know that we are now in an era where we call it the new normal. We are doing a lot now that 3 months ago are unheard, especially it has to do with our business and we operate. And most especially, this is the beginning of our AGM season, the beginning of corporate action season. We start from April, and unfortunately, this is the time we enter into this era of the pandemic. So, most of us before now, if you like, we have migrated to using technology to drive our business to a large extent. I mean, unlike what operated 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So it became very seamless for us to operate. As we speak, my team and I, now let me be specific, First Registrars, in the past, even before the total lockdown, 3 weeks ago, we've been working remotely. We were prepared for it. We knew it may come since we've heard what was happening all over the world. So we prepare ourselves for eventual total lockdown. And we started doing what we call dry run of our operation outside the office. And so far, we've been able to operate. We don't have downtime. As you are aware, every trade that takes place on the floor of the exchange on daily basis is transmitted to us via the market infrastructure, which is the CSDs. Yeah. And we are updating as if we are in the office. First Registrars in particular, we're in the thick of preparation for AGMs. If not for one reason or the other, we were supposed to have an EGM today, that is of Campina Wanko, Friesland, has been postponed. But first, FBN Holdings PLC will be having its AGM next Monday, on the 27th to be precise. And Fidelity will be having their own AGM on the 30th of April. And we are prepared. We are prepared in the sense that likely these AGMs will be done on proxy basis. So it means we are doing a lot of activities, sending proxy forms to shareholders, following up with them to complete these forms, and sending them back to us online, and via emails. And we are also preparing all the documents we receive. And we are updating online. We are updating the rest of members via the CSS portal. We are updating shareholders' information, especially bank information, through the NIPS portal. So we are doing a lot of things. And like I said, I'm trying to be granular. First Registrars, so far we've not had any downtime. In fact, it's like we are even working harder than before. More because I and my IT team and the business development team We work on Sundays, we work on Mondays, we work on Tuesdays, Saturdays. So it's like we're even busier now than when we were in the office. But everything is on course. And little for all other rickshaw, because I've been in contact with my constituency. Every other person is working from home.
Yes, nice to hear that, because the investment in technology and the need to ensure that everything is put to context and everything operates seamlessly brings a lot of demand at this time.
Yeah.
But when you look at the business continuity plan, I mean, it's interesting to see in Nigerian financial market how the Nigeria Stock Exchange has sustained this, the role that they are planned with the FMDQ Securities Exchange, the NASD OTC market also. All these key layers in the ecosystem, even the Affex Commodities Exchange, they've all rolled out their BCP to ensure that things move on through the technology platform amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Isn't this a new window to show that Nigeria is really catching up in terms of technology and building a vibrant financial market system?
Yes, I agree with you. It is. And it's not just the financial market, even the industries now, probably except those who have been manufacturing, that will not be able to do it remotely. But even on the time, even the church has gone online. I mean, I'm involved. I've had to convert my to cameraman. I have to record messages, both audio and video, and send to teams to beam them online. I mean, whatever.
Mr. Olugbemi, I hope you're not. May I respectfully cut in there? I hope you're not trying to take our jobs here, because at the end of it all of you will become TV producers, video editors.
Yes, so we're all threatening them. Disrupting the ecosystem.
Disrupting.
Social distancing. That comes to the house to record me. I have to improvise.
I understand. I was just kidding. It is bringing out innovation and the best in everyone. It's bringing the best. I'm sure for those of you who are, this is a new curve. I'm sure for those of you who are registrars and market operators, because for the first time, even what we had always known as remote trading has been taken out to another level, in which you've seen the CEO of the Nigerian Stock Exchange address the markets from his living room. I had never seen that in history. 30 years of covering the market. It had never happened before. Even during the June 12 crisis and all of that, the head of the stock exchange was always in the building and trying to encourage you brokers then who traded through those one of the most difficult periods in Nigerian history. And now we have a different scenario in which all of you are now using technology, innovation, and creativity to reach your client, to make sure everyone behaves himself. And that is one question I want to ask. I'm sure you've seen, and every day you're on top of this as a capital market guru, in terms of the various rules and guidelines and amendments that the Stock Exchange and the SEC is pushing out. Yes, and the CSE are pushing out in terms of how companies will do virtual meetings, make sure that no one games the market, that rules are obeyed in terms of filing, in terms of reporting, and what have you. Are you encouraged by this, that the financial markets authorities, the SEC, the platform operators are up to speed?
Supporting regulators.
Yes, supporting regulators are now doing all they can to make sure that the market remain upbeat and that there are no misbehaviors at this point in time, making sure that investors' monies are safe. That's a very strong message we want to hear from you.
They say when there are no laws, there may not be offense, though if the laws are there and ignorance of law is also not an excuse. And there must be some disincentive for bad behavior. And that is why I appreciate what Stock Exchange is doing by being very proactive to bring out new rules to govern the system that we are in now and that may likely continue in a way. So I am appreciative of what SEC is doing, what Stock Exchange is doing. And luckily, I serve currently on the board of CSCS. what we have put in place. And also as registrars, we've also put in place a lot of things. But one area that I and my team were discussing last week, which also everybody should look at, is the issue of upswing likely upswing at that time. This has to be looked into very critically by every market participants, stakeholders, be you a regulator, market infrastructure, registrars, stockbrokers. We need to look into that a lot, and especially, we have a lot of free players in the stockbroking industry, also in the registrars industry. We need to invest more in infrastructure, in cyber security, because this will be an area where there may be a doom, especially for us if we don't do the right thing. So we need to be very, very careful. We need to be at home. We need to up our game, especially in the area of cyber security.
I agree with you, Mr. Balumemi, because cyber security is very critical at this time, considering even the platforms that we use for conversations, for streaming and all that at this point. Yes, I agree with you in that. And looking at Nigeria, it's interesting to see those guidelines, like Mr. Bolson said, from the Nigeria Stock Exchange, from the Corporate Affairs Commission, and even the Security and Exchange Commission. And then seeing, like, even the Central Systems Clearing, the CSD, going fully digital. It's a remarkable development. And looking at the AGMs, which, like you've talked about, the ones that are coming up, the FBN Holdings and Fidelity Bank, we global overview now. In the UK, we just saw a report yesterday that the Share Society were raising concerns that FTSE 100 companies in the UK, most of them are looking at closed-door meetings. They're not looking at those proxy and virtual opportunities for people to participate, ask questions, know the direction of their companies. How are their companies going to manage this COVID-19 pandemic period? So speaking to the virtual process and the proxy, how does this change the game in terms of improving virtual meetings and ensuring that shareholder groups have a way of participating in the meeting despite the pandemic?
What some companies that gather the AGM have done is to have a mix of directors and shareholders representatives to be the proxies. I can speak for one of my clients, FBN Holdings PLC. They are having 8 proxies to represent all the shareholders, and 3 of the proxies are directors on the board, while 5 are shareholder representatives spread across. That is a welcome development, because in a way, shareholders will still have a voice through their representatives. And then much more than that, this issue that you raised now about the share society in the UK, we, for example, if you don't mind, us registrars, we have what we call, we have a product already that we are trying to even ask SEC to look at, which is a virtual AGM. With it, except for regulation that does not allow it, shareholders outside, not even because of COVID-19, will develop it out of a research and necessity that in future, that if a shareholder is unable to attend the meeting, yes, the law as it is now, is that you must send a proxy to represent you. But we are looking at a feature where I'll be in the comfort of my home, or anywhere at all, and attend an AGM and participate fully. But the only drawback for now is regulation. Minus regulation, some of us are ready for it. I am ready for it. We have done some dry runs with a camera at the AGM. You in your home, who has subscribed to that platform, will be able to join us and see us and make a comment if you must. So some of us have developed that product, but the regulation is the only impediment now, unless there's a regulation change, or there's a waiver by CC or CC waiver will the waiver. And necessity model of prevention, we have seen it now. We have never had such before that you can do AGM with only 8 people, while others are being represented via proxy AGM, which CAC has just brought to the fore. So I also believe that after this COVID-19, when we are all settled, or if after the lockdown, the regulators are cool. We have to sit down to see even if KAMA cannot be amended immediately in the short run, can there be a waiver? Just like SEC gave waiver on the issue of certificates many years when CSS just came on board. Can there be a waiver between SEC, AAC, and other regulators? Can there be a waiver that can say, okay, you can actually actively participate in AGMs without calling AGM, without even appointing proxies, but you are representing yourself, but online. Like I said, we have that product. You can either send a chat, or you can even speak. I mean, Zoom is there, Skype is there, but regulation is impeding.
Mr. Bolson, you've heard what Mr. Bayo said. Innovation, proactive.
Yes.
Looking at ways to navigate periods like this through technology.
I think it makes a whole lot of sense, and Mr. Bayo Olugbemi is speaking to an industry that he knows like well at the back of his hand. I'm sure he knows, and he knows this very well as someone who has been on the ground since the days of manual call-over trading and what have you. And if you are holding AGMs, for example,
yes,
if you're holding AGMs, for example, shareholders have to travel far and wide. Some will come to Lagos from Sokoto, from Kano, Katsina, Jigawa, Zamfara, just to attend an AGM, and they will have to sleep over in hotels. So they have to fly. Some come by road. I've seen AGMs held in Calabar, and some shareholder groups traveled by road from the far north, spent about 2 days on the road. And after the AGM is over, they can't get on the road because of the dangers of the night. They have to sleep over again in hotels. Who pays for those trips in those days and those years? There are a lot of inconveniences. In today's world, you can now shareholders can just connect via Zoom to the meeting at Shell Hall, a hotel, whatever is being held in Lagos, Kano, Transcorp in Abuja, whatever. And then you can arrange this. And people can make comments, and they can be taken. You see, it's a new world. You can relieve folks of dangers. And some of them, these are shareholders who just want to be at the meeting. Their investment in some of these listed companies are so small. They are not multi-millionaire investors. They own a few hundreds or a few thousands of shares, but they want the obligation to be there to be counted. Now technology can achieve that. So, Mr. Bayo, I think this should be pushed straight forward to the desk of the Securities and Exchange Commission, and maybe the CAC and other relevant and say, look, can we do AGM moving forward and use this COVID period as a learning curve to innovate further within the industry? But again, coming back to something you said earlier, very quickly, about we need to watch.
Sorry. Before I forget.
Yes. Yes, please.
Just the comment of your shareholders coming from far and near, open themselves to dangers. There has been some sad occurrences. I think in 2018, a particular couple went for an AGM in Abuja. They are very, very active shareholders, as you remember. They went for a meeting in Abuja. Coming back, was it 2019 or 2018? They had accident and both died. A couple.
Oh my.
I mean, there's one particular man years ago. He used to live in Kaduna. One Mr. Olayemi used to live in Kaduna. He came for an AGM in the Badon. Coming back to Lagos to come and join the airline, he died on the way. So there's been a lot of dangers being exposed to traveling up and down. I just like you said, all of us as a capital market, we have to come together and do something quickly. using this COVID-19 opportunity to change the status quo.
It's very quite unfortunate, and these are untold stories, Otto. These are untold stories, Mr. Olugbemi, of what had happened in the industry that the ordinary man out there don't know, the authorities don't know. Because the families of these individuals who bear the brunt of just attending an AGM into this world of GSM revolution and what have you, it's quite unfortunate that as close as 2018, some folks still lose their lives traveling by road just to attend annual general meetings or go back home safely. Now, how much is worth the investment they have, even if they are majority shareholders in these companies? It's not worth their lives.
2,000 shares?
Yes, it's not even worth the lives. They're paying. It's not worth it. So I think the National Assembly, and we're calling on the various committees now at both the upper and the lower house, the capital market committees of both the Senate and the House of Reps, and the House of Reps, and maybe banks and other financial capital market institutions committee as well, to have a bipartisan look at this. And I'm sure, Mr. Olugbemi, your association represents a very good stakeholder position within the industry to push this forward and help us enact and use this situation to go on technology, innovation, creativity that you market operators will bring to the fore. It saves people's lives, it saves money, it makes things a lot more decent, and it also elevates the standard of our Nigerian market into better global standards. I'm not too sure if you're in the US, for example, Mr. Olugbemi, you'll be flying from California all the way to New York to Radisson Hotel, whatever there, to attend an annual general meeting. You're crossing about 2-3 time zones within the US just to attend because you have about 10,000 shares of Apple or Google or whatever. I'm not sure you won't do it, by the way. You won't do it. Even if you have a private jet. It's just because the cost of even flying a private jet from California all the way to New York, what you are burning and your landing and parking fees in dollar terms, it's not worth it. So if you have a private jet in Nigeria, it doesn't make economic sense to do that. So this is the way to do it. But again, talking about keeping a permanent eye on the market, the SEC rolled out a few wordings about those who may use this opportunity to scam people, promoting Ponzi schemes, and what have you. I want you to touch on this because I'm sure from experience you know there are 2 times in which 2 periods during market boom and market bust when these folks that I call in Yoruba parlance afomo, this plant that is a weed.
What does afomo mean?
Afomo means, you know, you have a tree. And maybe I'll allow Mr. Olugbemi to explain to Otto what afomo means.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Afomo is a form of shrub that when you go to the tea bush or the bush, without knowing it cleaves to your body.
Yes, give me just a second. Respectfully, you see, if I grew up on a cocoa farm, for example, so farmers dread this type of weed because it doesn't have roots or whatever. When you just get to the farm, you find this little shrub stick to your cocoa tree or kola nut tree, and if you're not because they say that the cocoa tree thrives very well and is rich. So these plants, which I don't know what to call, weed kind of, so if you leave your farm for a week or 2 or 3 and you're not there, you just find out that these plants get stick to this economic tree like cocoa nuts or I don't know if it's, then it begins to suck the nutrients from the cocoa tree or the kola nut tree, started sucking the nutrients out of it. So if you don't pay attention, if you're not there on the farm every day, you find that half of your cocoa plantation is stocked with afomo all over the place, this weed. And then they would have sucked life out of your cocoa tree. So farmers, my late dad, will dread So you get some kind of pesticides you use for it, or you just use cutlass to start taking them off. Now, if you're using cutlass to get them off the cocoa tree, you have to be careful. If not, you're going to harm the cocoa tree or the kola nut tree. So those are Ponzi schemes. Mr. Olubemi, please, my apologies, please go ahead. How do we tackle this moving forward to ensure that they don't damage the integrity of the Nigerian market that you, as one of the many hundreds and thousands of the
confidence of investors.
And the confidence of investors?
I think SEC has started on a very good note by warning us. You see, even the previous cycles, were one of these Ponzi schemes, but yet a lot of people still fell victim. So there should be continuous investment or investors education from the stock, from SEC as a apex regulator. So even the individual operators, the brokers, the registrars, and every stakeholder, and of course the media will take a forefront seat by educating investors. The fact that you learned does not mean the fact that you went to school does not mean you are educated. You may not be educated as in the area of investment. Because I see people, or I saw people those days, despite the fact that you want them not to do what was that? Spectro and the rest of them those days.
Yeah.
People who are learned, people who are working in industries, people who are even bankers. I mean, a lot of people came to me and I said, as far as I'm concerned, I know 2 areas. It's now you put your money in the bank, placement, you go to the capital market, or maybe you go and buy assets, properties and whatever. But people still fell victim. At times, it may be out of ignorance, the most time out of greed. Because when you say, oh, if you invest in this scheme, I will give you 10% per month. You want 20% per annum. Where business are you going to do to get that kind of return? So I think greed played a larger part in people falling victim of this scheme. So greed and lack of knowledge. So we need to continuously educate our investors. And like as a pastor, the Bible says, "I perish for lack of knowledge." We perish. We need to educate people the more, and all of us should be involved.
Very well, Mr. Bayo. I hear you very well in terms of investor education.
I should just say, part of the thing is that we should tell them invest in only regulator-approved schemes, mutual funds that are regulated by SEC, ordinary shares, bonds, and of course, money market instruments.
Okay, Mr. Bayo. Now, let's go to something interesting. Mr. Bosun, Mr. Bayo is now the first ever virtually elected president of the Chartered Institute of the Bankers of Nigeria. Amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, they were able to hold their annual meeting and had the election. And he's now the incoming CIVN president. Yeah,
but I'm sure virtual will not be added to his title.
No, it wouldn't be, but it's just for the record.
President. He's a de facto president of CIVN. Yes. Congratulations, Mr. Olubemi.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
So how are professional institutes responding to this COVID-19 pandemic, like the CIBN, like the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria? I guess you're also having conversations with other professional institutes.
Thank you very much. You see, we did see COVID-19 coming, but we saw a feature where we should move to virtual platform. I'm talking of CIBN now. So some 6 years ago, we started on-site virtual voting. I will put it that way. Just like what we do at AGMs of companies. You know, we do our voting these days. We do online voting there using a platform where you have your remote control. You click yes or no when you are voting. That was what we started with. Of course, I introduced that to CIBN. and for 2 consecutive election cycles, we did on-site remote voting. Instead of using hands to indicate I'm voting, you use your remote control. So nobody knows who has voted for me, who has not voted for me. You see yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Then we now took it further in 2018 by having what we call off-site e-voting. Off-site, wherever you see the on-site e-voting, you must be present for you to participate. But for the off-site e-voting that we introduced in 2018, anywhere you are in the world, if you are eligible to vote, of course we have our eligibility criteria. And if you are eligible to vote, you can vote anywhere in the world. And we have a 3 days window, or is it 4 days? 12/1 on a Wednesday night, then you close the voting 12/01 Saturday morning before the AGM. And thank God we did that a few years ago, and that really actually helped us when this issue of COVID-19 came to the fore. In fact, as the time we had our AGM, there was no total lockdown, but there was as to number that can be present. But I stood my ground, for example, at one of our meetings, and I said, why can't we just go 100%? And our president is actually in Jos attending NIPS, Nigerian Institute of Policy and Studies. So I will leave home all the way. We said, okay, some people will be there physically while others will do virtual. And I said, no, why can't we just go virtual? And that was what we did for our AGM, and it worked. We were able to do that one because we had planned ahead as far as the issue of e-voting was concerned. We had done the voting even before the AGM. We finished the voting 12:01 midnight before the AGM started at 10 a.m. the following morning. So we are doing that. And I know some other professional bodies have been doing site online election over the years. The only thing is that none of them have done their AGM online that we did, probably because our own AGM came earlier. So I believe most institutes, professional bodies are also prepared for that. I know IOD has been doing online. I know ICANN has been doing it for some time now. We are, as CBN, have been doing it. And I believe others will take a key from that. That is the way to go.
Mr. Olugbemi, very quickly, we just a few minutes ago, the Bureau of Statistics just rolled out our March inflation data. I guess that's when this conversation already started on WebTV. March inflation now 12.26% from 2.20%. Food inflation is almost 15%, 14.98%. Core inflation is about 9.73 now from 9.43%. So when we look at inflation and all that is happening now around the COVID pandemic, in terms of the flow of investments to the securities market, what's your take on where the immediate future lies when we are out of the lockdown, anytime that is? But hopefully this will be short-lived between now and the end of the first half of the year. We're already in the middle of April. So what's your take on how inflation, core economic data, the likelihood, the recession that has been forecast for the country, how much of this do you think the markets, securities markets in Nigeria can take on board? If again we have a bit of a currency depreciation, and a weakening in other core economic numbers such as jobs and all of that. How much do you think is left? And what words do you have? What is your message for the market at this point for those who are already holding shares or interest in the market, in mutual funds, whether they are money market or debt or equity? What's your message for the market, Mr. Olugbemi?
Thank you very much. Yes, we have had a lot of analysts and predictions all over the world. And unfortunately, a lot has even been happening before COVID-19. in the oil market. Unfortunately, Nigeria, I mean, is oil resources. And without trying to be a lot of, if you like it, crisis after now, there may be a lot of loss of jobs. Already, employers are looking at a way to reduce costs, maybe staff costs. I've heard of some companies now doing 50%, even in Nigeria. I've heard of some people, even people are asking their staff to go on leave now on their vacation on non-paid vacation. So, just like people say in local parlance, that if the issue of hunger is removed from poverty, what is almost over. What am I trying to say? People will struggle more for what to eat and how to survive than how to invest. Yes, you may say these are retail investors. Even the big-time investors, the portfolio investors, you and I know that a larger percentage of our investment or investors in terms of volume are portfolio investors. Even before the COVID-19, many of them have started moving out of Nigeria. A lot of things is being considered the issue of the issue of devaluation and co and so on. So definitely the capital markets will be impacted a bit momentarily, negatively, before we begin to sort of answer. Because a lot of industries, yes, some of the industries are also benefiting from as a result of the COVID-19. For example, those in the food industry, I believe that there should be spike. And because just before this meeting, I was in another meeting of Capital Market Committee trying to look at what and what. And I've also had the banking community and the private sector led initiative trying to massively buy and distribute foods to Nigeria. Because for now, the major issue now is hunger, food, everyone's food. Even those that have money, they are unable to access food as and when due because of restrictions. So much more those who are daily wage earners. So I could see a spike in that area of economy. But generally, I think the economy will be done. Maybe not for too long. You know, I'm not an economist. But then people will struggle more to keep body and soul together than to invest. So the market may witness some law. So I will encourage investors, and I'm trying to carefully choose my word. If you are an investor that is a long haul run, this is time for you to invest. It must be for a long haul. But if you're a short-term investor, you must be very careful.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Bayo Lugbemi. It was really nice having you discuss with us today the impact of COVID-19 on the Nigerian financial markets. We really appreciate your time and your very incisive contributions today. Thank you very much, Mr. Boson.
Thank you very much.
It was nice having this CEO of Frontier Africa Reports. And that will be all for the market review today. As you heard, the COVID-19 pandemic, the discussions around the financial markets, and for those who want to invest, you must go the long haul. You must make it impactful. These are challenging times, but there's light at the end of the tunnel. Continue this conversation tomorrow by 10 a.m. But ProShare has developed for you an interesting platform where you can get market data and analysis reports on the impact of COVID-19 on the global, African, and Nigerian economy. Log on to proshareng.com/COVID-19 to get all this insights analysis. Just to update you with the latest economic news that the March inflation rate has come out. It's 12.26%, 0.06% higher than 12.20% for February. That's the latest economic updates. the National Bureau of Statistics just released the inflation reports for the month of March. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching. Have a nice day and stay safe.